Hi, this is Phil Borders from Hendricks Therapy here in Central Indiana, and today we're going to discuss the topic of self-care. So a while back I was having a drink with one of my nieces, and she's a sassy little thing, and she said, "You don't use the term self-care, do you?" She said, "It's very cliche, it's overused, it's oversimplified," and she just wasn't having it. And I told her, I kind of looked away and I said, "Yeah, I do. I do use the word self-care because I can't really come up with anything better." So we are going to talk about self-care, even though it sounds a little dorky. But self-care is essential in order to fight depression and also to fight the perfectionism that we've been talking about. And I see a lot of patients and I'll ask them, what do you do for yourself? And they don't do anything for themselves. They do nothing fun. So they take care of their kids, they take care of their parents, they work, and they've got nothing left for them. And their whole identity is wrapped up as a caregiver and a worker, which, being a caregiver and a worker isn't a bad thing, but you don't want it to be your whole identity, and you're also treating yourself lousy. So when people start taking care of themselves, they're doing a couple things. One is they're actually doing something for themselves, which is basically inherently good. And they're also symbolically telling themselves that they are valuable enough to take care of. So self-care is incredibly important. Now, there are a lot of barriers to self-care. One is guilt, especially working moms. Like, how dare I, do something for myself when I've got my 3 kids at home and I just got off work. Another barrier is they're afraid that they'll become a selfish person. If I start thinking myself, when's it going to stop? I don't want to be selfish. And if you think about it, if you're afraid of becoming selfish, almost by definition, you're not going to become selfish. A lot of people, when you talk to them about self-care, they don't know what to do. They've got no clue what to do as far as how to take care of themselves. So we kind of think about, what'd you do before you had kids? What'd you do before you had a job? There's this big world out there, and, explore it. If you find some things that are great and you like, hallelujah. If you don't, then, you've learned something. So it's okay to try something and not like it. Another barrier against self-care is our culture. Our culture, which isn't the healthiest culture in the world, is obsessed with work. Our culture gives badges of courage for those who are busy. The busier you are, the bigger your badge. And our culture also wants us to kneel at the altar of productivity. So to do self-care, it sounds easy, but it's really not. It's a lot of hard work. So a couple of examples. One is, I'm going to use my wife again, because that's what I do. After we had kid number 2, she started having some problems with depression because all she was doing was taking care of little kids. And what she did was she started playing tennis just once a week, just with a couple friends. And she developed more friendships. She got out of the house. She had an identity, of just being her. Her identity was back. She had a little sliver of the pie for her, where she got out of the mom role, the wife role, the caregiver role. And that's really all it took. Another example is myself. When we had kid number 3, I would work and come home and play with our kids. Now, I liked my job. I liked playing with my kids, but I got this weird resentment. And what I did, I started playing tennis too, just once a week. That's all it took. Just a little sliver of the pie for me, where I got out of my roles and I could just be Phil. Um, so then what we do with patients is it's like, okay, so we're going to talk about self-care. And what I want you to do is 3 hours, just 3 hours per week of just doing something nice for yourself, not self-improvement, but just basically having something, doing something fun, doing something social, doing something enjoyable. And the reason we pick 3 hours is, it's basically an evening, and it's a specific goal. And people tend to achieve specific goals as opposed to generals. If a general goal, if you say, "I'll just have fun," they'll come back next time and say, "I really didn't." If you come back and say, "How many hours did you have fun?" then that's a whole different question. And they're going to be more apt to challenge themselves with the specific goal rather than the vague goal. So let's take a hypothetical. Just say you have this 5-year-old kid and he has the choice of two mothers. So mom number one is Supermom. She has the house perfectly clean. She creates all these really healthy meals. She takes him to Taekwondo classes. She takes him to violin lessons. She has a tutor so he can learn to read faster. She does nothing for herself. She doesn't smile very much. She's a little irritable. But he sees her every day. So we have mom number two. Mom number two says, "Hey, you're only going to do one activity, per season. We're not going to do any travel sports, by the way. You are going to have to eat a lot of spaghetti. We're going to do Grubhub once in a while. The house is a little bit of a disaster. I'm going to go out every Thursday night with my friends, so you're not going to see me on Thursday night." But this mom's smiling. She's happy, loving. I'm not saying that mom number one's not loving, but mom number one's really tired. If you're that 5-year-old, which mom do you want? And I think most of us would want mom number two, even though that would come as a little bit of a sacrifice to our own self-interests. So in order to do this, you need to have fun. You need to challenge your guilt. You don't want to kneel at the altar of productivity. You want to get out with your friends, and you need to play pickleball. This is Phil Borders from Hendricks Therapy. Thanks again for watching.